Welcome to another section. We have been able to successfully integrate our URI into the server side of our application. So now we are going to go further into trying to create some data into the database, and we're going to be doing some things, right? Yeah. This was where we actually stopped at the earlier time, and we saw how we could actually create our database, and also have it integrated into our VS Code. Before we go on, one of the things I want to quickly say is that this is the URI that I was able to get from the database, which will help me to integrate and also connect to my Atlas, right? But then it is not expected to have this put in here in our code because of security. It's meant to be private, and because anytime or anybody having access to this already has access to our database. Just like you saw, all I needed to do was just to copy this thing and then put on the compass, and I was able to read data that were in the database. So it means once this is gotten, it makes our data vulnerable. What we're going to do is that we're going to have that put on in our in our env. That's our environment file. So I'm going to comment this. I've already have that done, so I will just comment this particular one. It means it's coming from our environment file, which if you check, you will see it here and all that. But then it is not yet changed. I just need to remove this. Just go back in here. Just go back to our index or route, right? And then I'll just copy this particular this URI that we have here. I'll copy the URI, and then take it to our environment file, and then I'll have it pasted. So I'll have it pasted here. So boom, it's already here. So when we have that imported, of course using the .env, you will find it here. So, and also it's already connected or attached to the mongoose that is helping us to connect to our database. So if you check, okay, our app did crash, so I will restart. Okay, instead of me to do rs means restart, I went to do control C, which stopped, and then I'm going to do npm run dev again. So the next time, please, for you guys, you don't necessarily need to do control C, just do rs like this on the terminal. Rs to restart the terminal. Yeah, so if there are if you run into errors or issues, just do rs just to restart the terminal. Restart the terminal. That doesn't mean that it's going to fix your error, and just to when your app crashes, of course you need to restart to know what position you are and all that. So now it's being connected to of course our database is now connected, but then we are serving the URI now from our environment file. Of course, that's where we're going to be keeping things that are secret. Yeah. So now to connect to our database, we need to first also create our model. In the last section, we have a live class. I was talking about what it means to what it is when we talk about models, and then I was kind of giving us what MVC means, because Node.js runs on the platform of MVC. Maybe let me just quickly type and then search what MVC means in Node.js, right? So let's just read through and then be seen. So MVC means model view controller, and it's a pattern, or is a pattern. MVC pattern is a software, of course, it's a pattern in software architectural pattern commonly used. Is a software architectural pattern commonly used in web development to separate the concerns of an application into three distinct components: the model, the view, and the controller. So of course, Node.js is versatile and all that. So basically, something that you might want to read through to have an understanding of what it is, and then kind of scale through and all that. Yeah. Yeah, so MVC kind of gives us uh, a module of having what we call separation of concerns, where we just have different part of our codes shredded into different segments and different files and folders. Of course, that's the concept that we have been using, and we have successfully adopted even from the onset of this uh, lessons and tutorials that we have been doing and all that. So having done that, I will go into our VS Code, and then I'll create a folder. Of course, I've already created a folder in order to make this whole thing not to kind of waste our time and then to be typing and all that. So I've created a folder called models. So it means that's where all our models are going to be. Now, what are basically models, or why do we have to create models in Node.js? Now, when you look at the data that we have, of course, when you look at the data that we have, I'm going to remove this. Sorry. So, okay. Yes, sorry. So when you look at the sample data that we have, you will notice that in the users we have the ID, the name, the email and address coming like this, and then have it you see it like this. Now it is so because we have already created a schema. Now that's another word keyword that I'm introducing, a schema. A schema is a kind of rules that tend to give us a structure of how our data is going to be stored in MongoDB. So literally what that means is that for every data you're going to have it saved in the database, you must have the schema, you must have the variable name in your model. So for instance, we can't save name, we can't save email, we can't save password and even ID if we do not have that in our schema. So our schema kind of define the kind of data that will go into the database. So without this schemas being defined, or the schema being defined and the names and the variable being defined, you are unable to save some of these data coming in from the client into the database. Mind you, there are some data that you do not necessarily need to define in your schema, just like this ID. Don't worry. Of course, you might want to. It's optional. You might not want to. They are defaults, and that's why you check it's like an object ID, because it tends to give a unique syntax or a unique identification for every document you tend to save, right? So what if I've been calling document. So when you open a folder, when you open a folder in your database, that folder, you see bunch of arrays. When I mean arrays, it means this is a cluster, another cluster, another cluster that has the same schema type. They are called documents, or each of these is called a document. And then the folder, which I was calling folder, is actually called a collection in MongoDB. So this is a collection, and here are their documents. So I haven't noted that. So we'll go into, so you create a model, and then you create a file. So in this case, we created a file called unnamed, whichever, users.js. So in the users.js, this is the schema that we have generated. So I'm going to remove this line because it's not actually needed at the moment, but then subsequently I'll bring it in so that we can have an understanding of what that means. So the first thing we need to do is to import Mongoose. Of course, Mongoose is going to be the one to help us define the schema that MongoDB will understand. And of course, we set it as a variable because we're going to be using it here. So basically, to let me look this guy out. So this is the basic syntax of creating to create your schema. You need to first define a variable, or call of course define a variable and give it a variable name, and then using the mongoose.schema. With this keyword schema, anything in between are now the keywords that are going to be used to define this schema. So also the timestamp is another aspect of the variables that you'll find in the schema. And what does that actually mean? This actually gives us, of course, gives us an overview of the time a particular document was created, a time the document was updated, and literally like a time validations and all that. So when we also begin to create documents, you also find that. So after that, after the parentheses, right, followed by this particular schema, variable called timestamps, and it's set to true. Of course, you can define it one like that, but when you make your use of this timestamps keyword set to true, you automatically define the time validations that you might need. Either when a document is created, it gives the time it was created. When it's updated, maybe there's a put or a patch request. Of course, we dealt with what that actually means. The timestamp is also updated per the interaction with a particular document. So after that, of course, you will have to export it in order to use it. But then in exporting it, you have to attach it to the mongoose.model. And then now here, the mongoose.model takes in two parameters, right? The first parameter is the name of the collection that will be in the database, right? And then the other part is the user schema, which you are exporting, of course, which you are attaching into the model that Mongoose is helping us to kind of generate, right? Yes, so it takes in just two parameters, the name of the model, the name of the collection, which you'll be seeing in the database once it's created, and also the schema that you have defined here. So you're passing this schema, you're passing it, and you're saying that Mongoose should help us kind of generate a collection which you're going to be using. So having done that, other fields are going to be the name conventions, the variables, the data that you will want to have it saved in the database. I remember before I got to this point, I was talking about that the essence of a creating model is that for everything that you want to, or essence of creating a schema is that for everything, every data you want to have it saved in your database, you must have the boilerplate. Okay, I think that should be the right one. A boilerplate or a holder that tends to collect the data and then attach it. You collect the data, you attach it, and then it saves, gives it a name, and then have it saved in the database. So that's basically. So here is for our email, and then here is for our password. Now you see there is a bunch of gibberish here, but first let's take it one after the other. The type here is saying that the email is going to be a string. Of course, you know what a string is, not an integer. You know, integer is number, string is bunch of gibberish. It could be anything, but then put in a double quote, and we have boolean, true or false, and all that. And then we have a field called required here. This required means that a user cannot create an account without inputting an email. So now once we try to create an account and we do not put in this email on our Thunder client, right, when we try to do a post request, it will throw an error. But at this point, we have not begun to work on our errors and all that to have it thrown to the user and all that. And this is the concept of where you are trying to create an account and we want to do something, and then there's a red asterisk there. Of course, that's a design from the front end. And then when you skip that part, it tells you that you need to fill in that particular. You need to just type in something there. There is a value that is required of you to put in there. So with this required is a keyword that is used in Mongoose to kind of is it explicit now? Of course, explicitly demand for the value to be passed. Hence, you can't save the data. It means without this email, whatever you're trying to pass will not be saved in the database. Then we have the unique true. Of course, this we are using so that for every email that we're going to be saving in the database has to be unique. So for instance, if I save in, let's say I come in as a user and I type in aaron@gmail.com, and then I have it saved and it's successfully saved. If another person wants to create an account again with aaron@gmail.com, it will throw an error and say that your email needs to be unique because someone has already used it before, right? Yes. So, but if you have it comment turned to false, it will not check. It will not check the uniqueness of email. So basically, what it's doing is that it's checking what is in the database versus what is about to be imputed into the database, right? So also the lowercase. The lowercase feature is another aspect of a mongoose check. So literally, what that does is that when we are requesting an email from a client, either from the mobile app or from the web app and all that, what that means is that if you like, let it be uppercase all through, or let it be combination of uppercase all through. The moment you type in, let's say the first letter A is a capital letter, and then the remaining ones are small letter. Because we want our email to be unique, we have to turn everything to look at lowercase. So once you send in your email, automatically with this we are able to convert your email into lower cases, right? So there will be no need for glitches and all that. So even as much as you come in and you type capital letter A and maybe the last N, when you're spelling Aaron, of course, is a small letter or a big letter, of course, whichever it is, right? We tend to convert that into a lowercase. And when you turn it to false, of course, it means whatever case you are using, either lowercase or uppercase, it will be accepted and it will be saved the same format which you imputed when you try to create an account. And then the next part is the match. The match is here what you're seeing a bunch of gibberish like, right? This is called regex, regular expression, regex, regex, which is short form for regular expression. What that means is that in the process of trying to create an account, there are some keywords that we're actually looking for, and if they are not, we'll throw an error and say that this is not a valid email. For instance, aaron@gmail.com is not a valid email. Why? Because there is no @ and you will hardly find an email account that does not have that @ It could be anything. It could be aaron@notjustevent.com. There must be an @ somewhere. There must be an @ in an email handle and all that. So that's one of the things that we also check. And then we check for if there are extra spaces. There's nothing like Aaron, then you put a space and then you say ata and at gmail.com. It does not work. So if we find that space, either we close it up, the front end guys help us to close it up, or we close it up, write a function to close it up, or perhaps we throw an error. So once it does not match what we have, it means we'll throw an error. So your email must match the regular expression that we have here. So and then the password is just strings and all that. So with that, you have been able to create a schema that we're going to be running. So the next thing is for us to now go ahead to create a user into our database. Now to do that, we'll now head back to our users route. We'll go back to our users route, and then this is from here you will see the snippet that is responsible for creating or registering the user. So of course I've already have this typed out. So the first line is that remember when we began the class, we began to learn how to get data from the client side using the rec.body. So with the rec.body, also I remember I spoke about the structuring. So this is the structuring here. So from the rec.body, we're able to get the email, the password, and of course that's the basic two things that we also have it defined. Now what that means is that whatever you see, this is what I've been trying to explain that whatever you have in your schema is exactly the things that you can actually save in your database. So if, for instance, we now add another field called, let's say, first name, it will not be saved in the database because it has not been defined in the schema. First name is not defined in the schema, so it will only be saved if we have it defined in the schema. So if it is not defined in the schema, I doubt if it will actually work and all that. I sense that where I am seated, there is some echoes and all that. So please just bear with the sound, and of course for now, yeah. So here I made use of the structuring to actually get email and password. Another method which I also discussed, of course, I spoke about in the last class, is making use. If you're not destructuring, then you have to explicitly say that you're requesting from the body the email, right? That's just a simple technology or the simple name, of course, or description you can give. That also you're requesting from the body the password, and then you have to assign them a variable email and password. But then I've been able to, without that, of course, any of this can actually work. Well, so I'll just stick with the structuring, but any of them can actually work. So I'll stick with the structuring. That is the structured variables that we have. And I remember the last class, also in the live class, I was saying that as most times I don't even use any of these two. I go right direct. All I need to do is just to copy this guy here, like copy the email, and then just have it paste here. It means I'm requesting the email from the body straight and then attaching it on the object. Now, of course, anyway I want to use it. Yeah, so well, I'll not do that here, but then that's my own way of just wanting to do. Should I say a quick work now without trying to go up there and write other lines of code? You know, I'll actually do that in line 16 and line 17, straightforward to see. So the next thing after destructuring, saying is the user model to create. Now, when we created the model, we needed to import it. So here I imported it using the require. So the dot is saying that look into, of course, go in backwards twice from the route folder, and then you get to the models. When you get to the models, you will see the users file. So that basically like the directories. I remember we also did some directories. Of course, if you've not, I will also post a link somewhere there where you can actually pick that and then also go through to learn on imports, exports, and then trying to get files using directories and all that. So of course, using the require keyword or function or method, I was able to import and then assign it a variable user model, right? So with that, I'm now using there's another keyword called create. Now I'm going to be using, of course, when we begin, there are different modules to actually save, or there are two basic modules to save into the database, either using the create keyword or using the save keyword, right? So in this, to keep it simple, I'm using the create keyword. So when using the create keyword, you have to make use of your JSON, your JavaScript or notation, in order to save this. Of course, I've been talking about for quite a long time now what an object is and how you can actually identify an object. How you can identify an object is that it's wrapped or it encloses data in a curly bracket, and then it makes use of name value pair, right? Name value pair or key value pair, whichever. That name value pair, key value pair. So this is the name, and then this is the value, or this is the key, this is the value. So I called it here, which is the name here, and then attach the value like that. And then what happened when we hit this endpoint? With this, we're able to create into the database the data that we are passing or that we have gotten from the client. And then here was basically me trying to send the response first with the message that account has been created successfully, and then the user details that we're able to save, right? So we're going to run this and then see what the outcome is. Maybe before we run the outcome, maybe let me quickly also talk about to get users. So in order to get users from the database, now I said users, as it's plural. So what you have to do is to also go into the user model and then do find. Now there's something I kind of added here which I've not talked about. Maybe when we have a live class, or perhaps you can just check around, browse, research about async await. Async await is asynchronous await, and then it's just for you to check on how it works. But then the basic understanding of that is that when you're running let's say a bunch of programs or lines of codes, when you make use of the await, what that means is that you are saying that that particular line should go ahead first. Wherever it is being called, you should go ahead first to begin to run that particular line of code. There could be a lot of codes, but then in as much as JavaScript runs from top to bottom, it go ahead to run, of course, as a promise, and then once that is run, it returns the response even before other lines of codes tends to run. So using the await, of course, because there are times that you might have some glitch on the database and all that, that's why you need to have put the await there, and also to kind of format the data in a JSON way. And then what do? After that, we send the response. Of course, using the res means response. We're sending the response with the status code and the JSON format, and then because it's JSON format, of course, we're using the keyword here, or perhaps the name here called data, and then the user exists is the data we're sending. So let's just quickly rush into testing what we have. So I'm going to Thunder client, I'm going to collection, I'm going to Pora backend, and let's say we want to register a user. Of course, we have passed through this part, right? So here is I'll try to kind of create an account here with the name Luca at gmail.com, and then password, first name Luca, and all that. I think before I do that, let me quickly kind of do some changes, not really a change, but then on the user's route, in the process of trying to create an account, let's make use of our async await here too. So it's going to be an asynchronous. Of course, for you to await, it has to be an asynchronous. That's why you have to put in the asynchronous here to kind of overshadow the whole function. And asyncs, you can add asyncs at the point of where you're taking your parameters, yes, and then the await for what you're going to be using, of course, and all that. So async await, and then I'll just go ahead to now create an account for with the name with the email look at gmail.com and all that. Now let's try to, what about if I remove the at? I was trying to talk about something, right? So I will hit this, and then notice I just got an error that connection was forcibly closed by a pair. Well, we have not actually handled the aspect of our errors handling, whereby not necessarily this error came in by default. It is expected that we generate our own, or we are kind of work on our own error response, so that when there are glitches like this, we'll send the response to the client, to whoever is actually interacting with our server side, and tell the person or tell the client that sorry, the email format is not accepted. So they will have to change their check-in to their email and then have it worked upon and changed and all that. So, and of course, if you read through the console, look at it, it says validator error. So it means Mongo are trying to validate based on the extra fields of remember when we talked about that regex, the regular expression. So it was checking to say, oh, email is invalid, Luca at gmail.com. It means email is invalid. So, and having seen how those extra fields online are, so I'm going to adding the at Gmail, and if I add a space too, you will see that same kind of error. Now notice that our app has crashed. In order for us to restart it, we have to do rs to restart that, right? And so once that is restarted, and now we just have to restart manually, because we have not set the error handlers. If we have set the error handlers, it would have just thrown the error and then still continue running our server. And also of course, you have to kind of handle the errors very well, else to be breaking your code. So we'll just go ahead to create an account, and then once that is done, boom, we just successfully created an account called with the name, with the email address, sorry, look at gmail.com. This is the password. Now look at the time it was created at, which is called created at, and then the time it was updated. Of course, at this moment, the created at and updated time, updated at will be the same, pending when we tend to, let's say, Luca comes in and then he wants to change and he say, oh, the A here is double A, and when the moment he changes it to double A, the updated add time changes. If you notice, this is 2024 04 24. This is 6:26 a.m. Nigeria time. So of course, I'm recording this class at 6:26 a.m. Nigeria time. Yeah. So with that, you we are able to successfully create an account. Now, if I try to send again, that is to create an account, because of that unique field, now it will throw an error. Now you see there's an error. What is the error? It means duplicate key error. That means what that means is that we can't have two looker at the same time, because we specify that for every user that must create an account, they have to have a unique email. So you can't have double email for two persons, or one person having two email with different names. No, every email must be unique and must be assigned to just one person. So because of our app has crashed, we'll type in rs to restart and then hit enter, and then it will restart. So of course I can change the name to, let's say, Luca. Now Luca, let's say this around is going to be Kelechi, right? Kelechi at gmail.com. And of course, this field, if you notice, of course, it will not work. Why is it not working? Because we do not have it defined in the model. So I'll just remove it. And since we're not actually using it, so I'll hit, and then boom, we have the message, which of course, when this is integrated in a mobile app or in a web app, you will see this message, account created successfully. Of course, those messages that you see are 99% times generated and created from the backend, and then the front end just pick the message and then they display it and all that. So and then the details that were created and also the time. Now you see this is 6:28. I think the other one was 6:24, 26, or 2 minutes difference. Yes, so that's it. That's what it is to actually create an account. So the next is to get the account. So maybe let's make use of this get student. Okay, maybe I should rename it to, let me just rename it to get users. We're not dealing with students now, we're dealing with users. So we hit enter, the name will change, and of course users slash get. You're not meant to do this get. I remember I spoke about, but just for because I was just trying to test run one or two things. So I'll remove it in order, of course, since we're learning how to write standard codes. So I'll remove it and then go back to the user's route, and I'll look for where I'd used it, which is this. I'll just remove it here, right? So it means after the base URL, where's the base URL again? Let's go look for the base URL. So it means after the base URL, which is users, and then it looks into the users model, users route, and then it begins to search which of these functions has a get request and does not have anything in front of it. But this slash does not, it's just a normal slash, just a slash to other params that you're going to be adding. But at the moment, since we're not adding anything, of course, if I add get, it means I have to go back to the get users and add get here. But then since I'm not adding it up, I'll just hit the response and boom. Now we're able to get data. Let me go down a little bit and then bring this video here. And then if you notice, look at it, we have the data now. It means these are all the users that we have. So this is how we tend to get users. If you have been to a platform, maybe you see a table on a web app or a mobile app has to do with all users, right? This is how we do that. Now, one of the things I didn't talk about is how we're able to get all the users. Now, what I did here was find. Now, if I am to get just, let's say, only looker, I will have to do find one and then pass in some unique identifier, either the ID, right? Either the ID. Now, either the ID or the email. Of course, that's why we're requesting that every email must be unique for a particular user or to a particular user. And this ID is auto-generated and it is unique for every document that have been created in MongoDB. Of course, yeah, in literally not just in MongoDB, but MongoDB uses object ID even in SQL, structure query language, like using platforms like it's not a platform, but then a query language. Should I also call it platform now? Like MySQL, PostgreSQL, and all that. You will have to. They have their unique IDs, which is in form of integers, just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is how you keep records in MySQL. But in MongoDB and other NoSQL, it generates a unique ID with a bunch of object IDs. Like we call this object ID because it's a bunch of gibberish. Yes, it could be letters, combination of letters and alphabets and all that. So it means letters and strings, right? Yes. So using the find, when you say find, in the database, when you say, sorry, in our when you say find, you're going to just get just all the users, everything in that particular collection. It means all the documents in a collection. But when you do find one, you need to pass in the parameter. Let's say you have to pass in, let's say, email, and then you get the email from reg.body, reg.body, right? Sorry, reg.body dot email. But then what that means is that you will also have to pass in your email in the body. You have to pass it as a payload, just like when we're trying to create an account where we have to pass in an email, and then you might want to destructure to actually get that. Maybe let's say email, and then you do reg dot body. So equal reg dot body. So when you do that, with this you'll be able to get of course you pass in the either Lucas email or Kelechi's email, you get only Kelechi's detail. Why I'm not doing that now is because I've not created anything here, but you can try that. Of course I can leave that as an assignment for you. You can check what I just did now, and then of course is find one here, and then with that you're able to get okay. If you notice there is something I did reg.body.email, like that's the usual way I would have loved to do it, right? But then because I've already destructured it from here, all I need to do is just to pass in the email and email. And of course, this is a JSON or an object, so it has a key and then a value, or you can say a name and a value. So when you run this, of course, it should be able to give you get to it. So I'll leave that to you as an assignment, and then ensure you create an account, right? So ensure you are able to create an account, get all users, and then get a particular user using find one. So in the next class, we'll go ahead to interact with other queries. Now, this find one is the query I was talking about in the initial in the previous video, right? And what does it do? It actually queries the database and says, okay, I'm looking for this particular data with an email. This is also email. Then it queries into the database, and then it gets the response, and then we send the response to the user, of course, which is to the client, right? And of course, using find one, there are other request queries that are there. We have find one, we have find, we have update by ID, we have get by ID, we have update one, we have update all, we have update multiple, we have delete one, we have delete multiple. There are a lot of them that of course you can also check that out. But then basically they are part of the things that are going to be interacting when we start our project and all that. So this will do for today, and I believe subsequently maybe before the end of the week, I'm also drop another video, a link, of course, where I will treat one or two things. And I'm also happy to say that maybe we'll be adopting this particular module, right? Just to pass in an information using this platform now, and I'm recording. And perhaps, of course, there are a lot of things that we're going to be learning together. So stay tuned.